In today's Pearls of Wisdom, we talk about the different resources that are out there for crafters and which one is right for you. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another episode of Pearls of Wisdom. I'm Kahin, this is
Anaï,
and this is
Ali.
And we are three friends coming to you from Ottawa, Canada, talking about all things fiber arts, knitting, crocheting, and all of the things. And in today's episode, we are talking about the different resources that you can find to help you elevate your game and what actually works for us and what maybe doesn't work for us. And I want to start with sharing a little, not an anecdote, but kind of like a metaphor. Okay? My partner is a chef. And in our house, we have so many cookbooks, it's disturbing. And you can tell which ones are my cookbooks and which ones are his, solely based on the fact that we want very different things when we were looking for a cookbook. So when I'm looking for a good cookbook, I'm looking for recipes. I want a cookbook that is filled with recipes. It may have a bit of an ingredient section, but it'll mostly be just recipes. But my partner hates those books. He wants cookbooks that are all about ingredients and techniques because he wants to have the opportunity to create something with that, right? He doesn't want the limitations of a recipe. But for somebody like me, it's the opposite. I don't know what I'm doing. I need the recipe to guide me. So I'm using this as a bit of an intro to tell you that these are technically two very different resources that are responding to different needs, right? You're for me, who's not in any shape or form a chef, I want something that is very guided and structured. For him, it's more about the creativity and the tools that he'll use to be creative and come up with his own thing. So at the end of this episode, I kind of hope you get to find out whether you're more of an ingredient person or more of a recipe person. All right. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So there are many types of resources out there. And it is very easy, I think, to fall into the trap of going back to the same ones just because we are familiar with them, we like them, and they can be great. But it's kind of like that tunnel vision where you only see the ones you know, and then you kind of like stop looking and you don't really think, hey, what about this or that? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to try to like broaden our spectrum and see all of them and not just the ones that we think are out there. So we're going to start with, the first one is probably just the one you think about when you're thinking resources, which is books, magazines, the support ones, right? I got tons here. Magazines, like this buddy right here.
Oh, R.I.P. Pom Pom Magazine.
I know. But very good resource. We have the Sock Project. These are just examples.
This is an ingredient book.
Definitely.
If you're following the recipe,
this is not for you.
The Sock Project by Summer Lee is such a great resource because Summer Lee lays out the components of a sock in a way that you can kind of build your own adventure, like choose your own adventure, different types of toes, different types of gussets, different types of cuffs, different types of color work, etc., textures. And so the book is not just like one pattern after another, like Pom Pom Magazine. It's more like techniques on techniques categorized by umbrella term, I would say.
And this is a book. It does have patterns in it, but the point of the pattern is to give you the opportunity to learn the skill that you've just read about, right? So she introduces a concept to you, she tells you how to do it, and then the next pattern is you implementing that technique. So you're given an opportunity to master it or begin mastering it.
Then you have this lovely series, 50 weeks of anything, really. This is the scrapbooks, but there's the socks.
There's shawls.
They have very different ones. And this one is definitely more of a recipes book, but it's awesome.
It's so good.
I really like the series because it really helps you elevate your game
and
with
the
wonderful patterns.
Photography.
I know.
But like you've got all the different. You've got.
They make for really good coffee table books as well. So they are kind of decor, but also a reference for patterns. What I'll say about the 52 Weeks of Anything line, even though I do love it, is that it doesn't leave much room for self-expression.
No.
You kind of just are presented with a menu. And then you pick from that menu what you want to make, and you follow it to the T. And if you do, you get
recipes.
You get the recipe, right?
These are definitely recipes.
And I should also mention that this is not a series of books. There is one, I think it's called 52 Weeks of Easy Knits. But other than that, the rest of them are not designed to be like teaching books, because they don't have an introduction or a foreword or a glossary or anything like that. That some you will have. Like, for example... I also brought my copy of Feminist Cross Stitch by Stephanie Rohr. It's amazing, but the first couple of pages has, if I can get to them, the introduction, but then she tells you about all of these supplies that you're going to need. And she starts talking about the techniques, and she's got descriptions on how they do them and photographs, and then there's like a glossary in terms of how to read charts and things like that, and finishing. So the information is there at the beginning, which then you can get to the patterns, and then you can apply the information that was at the beginning. So she's designed it to be a beginner-friendly thing, whereas this is more, the assumption is you know what you're doing, and you can just take the recipe and go.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's a lot of books who are a little bit like this, where they have the beginning, which is like technique. Like this one does that, knit this, which is another kind of like recipe heavy book. But the beginning has a lot of that technique of like what technique you're going to use in this book, and what kind of yarn you want to use, kind of deal, right? Like if you look at here, this is also
the photo tutorials.
Yeah.
But I can, and same thing with this one, I can tell you that those two, which are wonderful books, both of them, are very much recipe books, because that's what I like. Clearly both in knitting and cooking.
I mean, look at this.
Oh.
I should cover the chart because we don't want to give stuff away for free. But like,
yes.
And they'll have all of the different numbers of the thread here. The chart is here for people to follow. But then you move on to the next one, and that's the recipe for the next one. So it's some of them will have the introduction section with that information that you need to get started. Some of them will not. And then there are some books that are just technique forward.
Yeah.
What's nice about books is that they're structured. And whether it's just recipes, ingredients, or a mix of two, it's a slow structure. You can take your time, you can read over, and you can learn how to read a chart, which is a little hard to do on non-paper
it is
resources.
Like, if there's one that you want to get started, I would go to your local library to look for this one in particular.
Yes.
This is a big one.
Especially if you want to start designing. Because this book, and we can flip through it a little bit, is really great because it talks to you not just about like learn how to knit, but like the structure of knitting. If you're building a shoulder, like what do you have to take into consideration? Like if you start designing, like how do you do shaping? How do you measure? What measurements do you include? What are the things you need to know in order to like start a project that's bottom up versus top down? And
it's more of a curriculum.
This is a course.
There's no patterns in this book, but it will tell you and teach you every technique you need in order to knit all the patterns in a recipe book.
Yeah. So you kind of, honestly, one of each is a great starting point. But again, this is just one of many types of resources.
And check your local libraries. They will have so many of these books because they are an investment.
Yes.
Or thrift shops.
Maybe don't start right away with buying the book. Just go to your local library, go through it, and if you vibe with it, then you go buy it.
I want to make a mention of another type of book that I have found really helpful, which is a reference book or a dictionary book. So if you could pass, please. Yeah, there you go. This is a reference book. It's Crochet Stitch Dictionary. I got this as a birthday gift from one of my friends, and essentially what it is a list of textures in crochet organized by an index. They're very specific instructions on how to recreate these textures in crochet, different motifs, different stitch styles. I just wanted to show you the index.
Nice.
Oh my
Look
God,
at that.
yeah. But again, very structured.
So it's 200 different stitches. And this book does include a section on how to actually get started, what materials you need, an illustrated guide to how to do the basic crochet stitches. But it doesn't have any patterns.
Yep.
This is a reference book so that if you're working on your own thing and you're experimenting and you want to replace a stitch pattern with another one, you can go to your reference book and find another stitch motif that is 10 plus 1, and you can replace it from here. Another really good reference book is this one, Elizabeth Zimmermann's Knitter's Almanac.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is kind of a hybrid between a technique book and a recipe book.
Yep.
It has 12 patterns, one for each month of the year, which is why it's called an almanac. But the way that it's written, I'll show you, like, it is not just a recipe book. It's not just patterns in the way that we're used to. Elizabeth Zimmermann has taken the time to add narrative pieces in here, experiential stuff. She's added a lot of tips and tricks based on her own life. She's talking to you about her growing up and her learning to knit. So it's actually just an enjoyable prose book if you wanted to use it, but it also holds a lot of techniques in here that are referential. So if you want to go back to this almanac to remember a technique or a style that you wanted to do, like how to do the I-cord border. Did you know that she invented this?
I believe it.
It's called an idiot cord. That's why it's called an I-cord. So if you forgot how to do that and you want to come back in here, you can, use it as a reference. But it's not coarse.
Yeah. And Elizabeth Zimmermann is the OG, so you'll find a lot of references to her in more recent resource books.
That's right.
So so that's the books and magazine section. So essentially, to recap a little bit, we're talking structured step-by-step guides with images, techniques, and you kind of have a bit of either just recipes, just techniques, or a bit of both, right, together. So that's it for books and magazines.
Should we put these away?
Yeah, let's pile them up.
Oh, yeah, here goes.
There you go.
Put these
Get them out of the way.
The second one is online tutorials. I'm going to let you take the lead on that one because that's the one you like.
Yes, I am definitely a visual learner, but I have trouble learning from static images. I definitely function better. My brain functions better when I can watch somebody do a thing repetitively so that I can get it. So there's multiple ways that online tutorials, particularly YouTube really is the place to go if you're looking for a digital video tutorial of a thing. And it can be quite easy to find whatever you're looking for. Like I, for example, for the first few years that I was knitting, I could never remember how to graft a toe. So I would go in and, while I don't use the term anymore, I would literally just search on YouTube, Kitchener stitch. And then I'd come up with a whole host of different videos, right? And you can do that with anything you want to learn, any stitch, any technique, whatever. Type it in, and you'll get a populated list of all sorts of different tutorials. The trick here, I think, is don't just click the first one and go off of it. I would definitely recommend watching 3 or 4 because not everybody teaches things the same way, and not every teaching style vibes with your brain.
Correct.
Right? So look through a couple of different videos that have been produced. Find somebody that you like and then explore their back catalog of videos. For example, Stacy of Very Pink Knits is my go-to on YouTube because I appreciate the way that she walks you through the technical side of knitting. She's also created an entire series of slow motion videos where she does the same technique in slow-mo while then narrating what she's doing to the speed of it. So you never feel rushed when you're watching her tutorials. I'd also like to add that if you are somebody who knits a lot of patterns, check in the patterns because sometimes designers will create bespoke tutorials for that pattern. One great example of this is Stephen West. Every year in the fall when he does his mystery knit along, he creates in-depth tutorials of every single step along the shawl so that you can learn along with him what you have to do to complete that thing. So I find it really great. Even if I'm not planning to make the shawl, I watch the tutorials because he often uses the same techniques in his other patterns. So for example, there's one shawl of his that I don't own the pattern for, but I know he's made a video of, and he has a tutorial on like picking up stitches along a slip stitch edge. I use that all the time. I use that all the time. I've saved it in my favorites on YouTube, and it's great.
That's what I was going to say. You can save whatever videos are the ones that vibe with you the most, or the one you go back to on the regular basis. You can easily. I have pretty much all my liked videos are knitting videos at this point, but they're all for a specific technique, and I'm like, oh yeah, how do you do this again?
Yeah, because these videos are all step-by-step demonstrations of whatever technique it is that you want to learn. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I've made a video on how to do a make one left and a make one right. It's not for a specific project, it's just the general technique. Great. Sometimes a project will have a video of multiple techniques in one video, but all of those techniques contribute to the creation of a singular pattern.
Yeah.
And then it's nice because you get to see the motion of the hands, right? To me, the problem with images that are static is that sometimes it's like, you go from, let's say, step 2 to step 3, and you're like, but how did you get from 2 to 3? I want to see the movement, right? So at least with the video, you get to do that. And like you mentioned, slow motion. You also have close-ups. You also have
English
charts,
versus continental,
and then you have like
Left-handed and
subtitles.
right-handed.
Exactly. So like, there's different ways to approach that same.
My crafting or my fiber arts skill set really skyrocketed when I started accessing YouTube tutorials.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm having a hard time remembering what I used to do before YouTube. Because I've said this before, but I started crocheting and knitting when I was 6. So obviously I was limited to what other people could teach me. But as soon as I had access to the internet, I had access to blogs. I had access to online magazines. I had access to teaching websites. I had access to Ravelry in 2005, you know? I was one of the early creepers into Ravelry.
Oh, I'm so curious what your Ravelry number is.
And so one of the things for me that is the most helpful is yarn brands that have YouTube channels often also have tiny 2 to 3 minute demonstrations of the stitches that they use to just promote the use of their yarn. A really good example is Wool and the Gang and Purl Soho. Wool and the Gang and Purl Soho, they what they do is they sell yarn, their own brand, but also they make kits with original patterns. And so in those original patterns, they'll use a special technique. And in the PDF, you can click the link to go see the YouTube video of that technique, like how to do the German throat row, how to pick up on the side, how to join in the round, things like that, that are just like a little extra freebie for people. But for me, since I don't buy all the patterns, but I do follow the YouTube channel, I get all those little nuggets of wisdom right at my fingertips. And like you said, it's nice to save them so you can remember to like check them once in a while. And everything is literally a search away.
And
if you can think about it, someone's made a video.
Best part, it's free.
And self-paced.
I mean, unless you're paying for YouTube Premium.
Stop, return.
I mean, I learned how to knit from watching YouTube videos, and it was great because I was doing it at like 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night in my dorm room, right? Like I wasn't held to the classes at this time in this place. I could do it when I had the free time to learn. And it's great because, as you say, you can just stop and start whenever you need.
So you do it at your own pace, and if you need to rewind 5 times to look at the same damn motion, you can do that.
Who's your favorite YouTube tutorialist?
I mean, I already mentioned Stacey of Very Pink Knits.
Yeah, I have
think
to agree.
She's fantastic. Very Pink Knits for sure is the top one. But really, whenever I need to learn a new technique, it varies. Depending on the technique, whoever the video it is that I click with, it's different.
Nice. How about you?
No, I'm exactly the same because more often than not, Stacey's video is the first one that pops, and I'm just like, okay, and I already know, that's what I meant by familiar resources. You just go back to them. I just know that she's probably gonna do it exactly the way I need to see, so I just click for her. If for whatever reason I like it's not enough, then I'll go further down.
I really like for refreshing techniques, I like sheep and stitch. And for troubleshooting problems I didn't even know I had, I like nimble needles.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Nimble needles is really good at just, like I said, troubleshooting, but also at perfecting those little techniques that you've already gotten. But like, what if you want your stitches to be neater? What if you want the sides to be like straighter? You know, things like that.
I have another one. Jillian Eve for drop spindle spinning.
Oh, Jillian Eve is fantastic.
Yeah.
And she has a lot of like additional vloggy kind of style content, which I love. Yeah.
So that was the online tutorials. The third one is one that people don't necessarily think about as much. Websites, blogs, where it's mostly written, right? So it's kind of a bit of a mix between a book and an online tutorial where you can have videos, but usually it's like articles that tend to focus on a specific pattern or a specific technique or a specific whatever it is that you're trying to learn. That can be very useful. I don't use it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't use them as much. Mostly
Knitty Mag. I love Knitty Magazine.
And what do you like about them?
Knitty Magazine is great because they always publish some free patterns like there to follow, and every time they do, if the pattern has a specific technique, they'll explain it.
Okay, that's nice.
But also they have kind of lessons learned articles and some deep dives into certain techniques. Like for example, in Knitty Mag, you can find multiple deep dives into raglan sweaters.
Yeah.
Like what is the construction? Why does it work that way? How do you do the math? Who's famous for making raglan sweaters? It was Elizabeth Zimmermann. You know, like what makes them popular? How come they fit so well? And things like that are not really specifically about the technique, but are about learning the context of it.
I have to shout out Tin Can Knits, the designing duo of Emily and Alexa, for exactly the same reason. They have a series of free patterns that they have created accompanying blogs with, so that they will take you step by step through the process of making that pattern while teaching you the skill that you need. So the Love Note is one where they have an incredible step-by-step tutorial as a blog post that goes along with it, and it takes you start out with casting on with your crochet chain, and then you do increases, and then the next step is the color work, and then it's separating for the sleeves, and then it takes you the whole way. It holds your hand the whole way. But what's also really helpful is that they then have a series of tutorials that are related to like other techniques. It might not be a specific pattern, but they have the same structure of taking you step by step through. One I recently shared with the members of our knitting group was their blog series on starting color work. Learning how to do color work. And it talks you through all of the things that you need to consider, like your gauge, like your yarn type, like which increases you're using, what kind of chart is it, like a round yoke, is it a raglan, is it whatever, and all of the different things that you need to consider are there in the blog post for you to sit and chew on before you even start knitting. Really great place to start is blog posts.
Yeah, and I think that's like the way you describe it when you say like they hold your hand the whole. I think that's a good way to mention it, the way you describe it. So I might check it out. Who knows?
Honestly, they're great. They're great.
And then we continue to social media and online communities.
We have an online community.
We do.
What's this?
Now that's the Ravelries of the world, the Facebook groups, the in our case
Discord
group channels,
YouTube communities.
It's any community, online or otherwise, but community that can help you. And what's really nice about specifically the community is, in my opinion, the amount of inspiration and motivation you get from just like scrolling through things. Yes, you get access to like patterns and people, but it's just looking at what everybody's doing and just looking at like it just like of all the resources, that's the one that gets my juice flowing the most, because I want to do everything.
Those ones are.
I was gonna say one of the best things about online communities for me is that sense of community and belonging. You know, fiber crafts or any other kind of art really is mostly solitary.
Yes.
But if you choose to connect with other people, share what you're making, what you're thinking about what you're making, and help out others that are struggling, it really settles your skills in a way that makes you a better maker too. Like not only are you bringing value to others and sharing what you know so that you're spreading the wealth, but also in explaining it to other people, you're solidifying your own skills.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really great benefit to just join a community and be willing to be that source of inspiration for other people.
You can also lurk for a while until you get comfortable. You don't have to
That's right.
immediately jump in
and
and be active within it. You can wait, catch your bearings, see how things are, and then start engaging.
One of my favorite things to do is lurk in the Ravelry groups.
Yes. Oh my God, I love it.
I join Ravelry groups and I just read. I rarely contribute.
And then if you're not 100%, like, you know, you're not at the level where you feel like you can help others that much, well, what's really nice about the community is that you have access to, like, patterns and people of different level skills, right? So these are people who, if you have problems, you can actually, like, talk and share and say, like, hey, I'm having trouble with this particular technique, or I don't understand what the pattern is saying, and they'll probably have a good 12 people just, like, jumping in to help you and saying, I got you, like, here's what you can do. And if they don't understand, people are going to band together to try to figure it out together. So that's something that is very near and dear to me, because like, if I have a problem, I know I have an entire team ready to back me up and go, like, we got you.
We got you.
I also really love how much these online community gives me exposure to designers I had never heard of. Right? With the way the algorithms work this way, with the way that I filter my searches on Ravelry and on just any social media in general, I don't always see stuff that's coming out because maybe it's not super popular, or it's not well known, or it's being pushed to certain groups and not other groups. And so there's so many patterns and designers that have been shared in our knitting group Discord that I'd never heard of before. But then as soon as I look at their over a dart, I'm like, oh my God, I want that pattern, and I want to make that pattern, and I want to make that pattern. And all of a sudden I found a new designer who I have to follow on every platform I can. So it's great.
And if you're lucky and you find someone in there that you vibe and you put work into building a relationship, you also can make some really long-lasting friends.
That is so true.
It takes work. You can't just, like, show up to an online community and be like, I demand friendship. Give it to me now.
Yeah, we're 6 years in. So
It's
time.
steep. It's steep.
The curve is steep, but it's one of the best ways to meet people that are into the things that you are into. And you immediately have things in common, and it's very possible that you will find a good friendship bond in there.
Yeah, it's tough to be vulnerable putting yourself out there, but it is worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Then we have classes and workshops. I also grouped in just in person, whether it's a loved one or a friend or anything, but let's really focus on classes and workshops in any form of in-person interaction.
This is how I learned to knit and crochet.
And this is also what she does right now.
I do.
So what do you think it brings to the table to do it that way?
It just hits so different. I am a visual learner, but I also need to do it and fail at it in order to understand it. And it's hard to fail on your own. And if you're watching a video and you can't get it, like, you'll probably just toss it aside and try again another day and forget about it if you're me. But when you're in the company of someone who is passing the knowledge along to you, they're not going to let you fall off the wagon. You know? And that is what I like to do for my students, because that's what was done with me. I learned from my mom a couple of stitches, from an aunt a couple of stitches, from a friend of the family a couple of her stitches, and I got inspiration from them when I was growing up. And that really gave me the foundations to be able to then interpret what was going on in the blogs, what was going on in the videos, to look at examples on Tumblr of things that people had crocheted and try to figure out how to do it and to make my own stuff, right? But it was that foundation of having someone next to me who would hold my hand almost literally, and they could monitor the movement that I was making and correct me as I was making it.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. That aspect is what really, it's that now it's not you who's, like, fumbling with a problem and you have to figure out the solution. You have an expert next to you who's, like,
I'm spotting you.
Literally spotting you. Who's like, this is what the mistake is. Here's how you fix it.
I find that it's most the same as deciding to go to the gym by yourself and just figuring it out. You download the app, you see the pictures of the postures, and you do it, versus taking the time to pay for a personal trainer or joining a class in which the personal trainer is going to explain to you how to do things and why to do things. And that's very important because otherwise you're going to get hurt at
Yep.
the gym.
Yep.
And one of the things that happens now that I've started like teaching more regularly is I'll get students come in for the introductory class, or they'll learn to crochet, learn to knit for the first time, and it's not their first time. They're coming from YouTube, and they already have bad habits. Unfortunately, they do. Because they were trying to imitate how the person holds their yarn, or they're trying to imitate how the person holds the hook or the needles. They're trying to imitate what they saw, and they don't understand why, but it's too late. Their fingers have already
decided this is the way to do this.
This is the way. So when I teach them the basic movement, they can't get it because they already have.
So you have to essentially break that habit and relearn those,
which is extremely difficult. So
Very
I
hard.
would say if you want to learn so that you can smooth sail through the internet, picking it all up, it really helps to sit down with someone who's going to spot you as you do it and watch you in 3 dimensions, and correct you as you go.
I'd like to give you a tiny counterpoint, because I am a person who watches the videos before I go to a class. But I do this for a specific reason, okay? I like watching the videos of a technique before I go to a class to learn about that technique. Not so that I could learn it in advance, but so that I can start internalizing the
Process
terminology.
it.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
can
point.
start recognizing the way the stitches are supposed to fall. I'm not sitting there knitting, trying to learn the technique while I'm watching these videos, but I'm starting to internalize that information so that when I get to the class, I'm not overwhelmed by a new technique and new information.
Yeah.
I've already got in the information, and now I just need to get the muscle memory down while somebody's there to make sure that I'm doing it.
That's smart.
So, but that's just the way my brain works.
And I do recognize that some people like that. So what I do is before class, I send them a handout. And this is what we're going to do. These are the instructions. Don't do it yet. We're going to go over it together. Yeah. But of course you get eager beavers who want to do that you, because it helps, be more present or not be scrambling internally to follow what I'm saying and what I'm doing. So whatever your preference is, I think there's still value in having someone presently with you, walking you through it so that you can interact with the person. I love the close-up videos. I do. I consume them all the time, but I already know the basics.
Yeah.
And classes are great, even if you already know how to. If you would call yourself an experienced knitter, classes are still great, because I've definitely been in the position where I've tried to learn a new technique or a new stitch, and I just get frustrated because I'm just not getting it, right? So walking into a space where I have somebody else teaching me, be it in an official class setting, be it with somebody else in my knitting group who's just helping me out, is so great, because it gives me a chance to step back and be like, okay, I can be a beginner again. This is a safe space for me to just forget everything I already know, or alternatively, ask questions based on what I already know, and then build up the skills slowly. Because when you're by yourself, you have the expectation that, oh, I already know how to knit, therefore I already know how to knit brioche. That is a lie.
That's incorrecto.
That is a big lie.
Fat lie.
You have to take it slowly, step by step, and even as an experienced maker, walking into a class gives you the opportunity to take that step back and learn something new from the fundamentals up.
Yeah. It really keeps you humble. But even if you're just one-on-one with your auntie or with a friend that is teaching you the steps, it's kind of really comforting and validating to have someone there with you to ask questions to just vent to, or to say, and be comforted because you can't get it, which is not something that you get when you're learning from a book or from a a self-led
And then you
curriculum.
can really, what's nice is you can also really focus on whatever area you really need to focus on, right? You can you don't, there may be certain aspects of the class or technique that you understand very well, but then there's that one small spot that's just this is not working, this is not coming in, and then whoever is with you can really help you through that specific problem.
Last year, I took a class from one of the women that works at the yarn store for Fair Isle knitting a hat. And I was like, whatever, I know how to do color work hats. Ain't no thing, right? But then I told myself, well, I know how to do color work, but I don't know how to do it well. I kind of just picked up a pattern and did it, and I'm not sure if this is, quote, correct. Yeah. And most of the time, it ends up puckering, or I was having some other issues with it that I was self-accommodating for and looking for things. Like there's 1.5 million tips on YouTube on how to knit good color work. And I was like, you know what? Mary's gonna do it live.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pay Mary money. And it was so nice. There were 5 of us in the class and the instructor. And more than me learning the technique, which I did end up like ironing out a lot better than if I was on my own, it was the community aspect, the companionship aspect to knowing that every Sunday I was going to meet with my 5 other knitters and we were going to struggle together. And everyone was at a different stage in the pattern, and the instructor was able to look at what had gone wrong in for one of us and explain it to the rest of us. So even if I didn't make the mistake, I was learning from other people. And that's a real value that I don't think you get from the internet unless
100%,
you're 100% looking for it.
Yeah, I took a class with Kate Atherley on Intro to Brioche at Knit City Toronto last year, and she specifically said at the beginning, she's like, if you make a mistake, don't try to fix it. Let me know. I'll come over and I will fix it with you and explain why you messed up.
Yeah.
And it was so good. It was so good.
That's
like,
really helpful.
There was a woman at my table who was struggling a lot, but it meant that the 6 of us at the table got to have that information reinforced every time she was like, I need your help, Kate. It was great. It was great.
No,
and everyone is like, let me see. I want to see how you do this.
So worthwhile, truly worthwhile.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Finally, let's end with the last type of resource that you can find, and that's apps and other interactive tools, mostly apps.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the kind of app that helps you organize and maybe track your work. So it's not
like
so
Pattern
much.
Keeper.
Yeah, so it's not so much like they may have tutorials, they may have a few patterns, but it's really more of an organization and tracking tool. They can be very useful. Funny enough, I kind of use that system, but not on my phone in a booklet. So I write it down.
Yes, I've seen said booklet.
Right, yeah.
But it's the same principle where I just write down
It's a pen
rows.
and paper app.
Yeah, it's pretty much. And it can be very useful for tracking, especially when you're trying to modify a pattern or redo the same thing 2 or 3 times. So like when I was doing one specific technique, but I did it in like 5 different patterns, I wanted to make sure that I understood the technique relative to the pattern, right? Even if it was the same technique, they were kind of a little different from one pattern to the next. So I would have notes on each of them, and I tracked all of that in that little booklet. So these apps, if you would rather have it on your phone, can help you with that.
I really love Stitchly. If you are also a cross stitcher like myself,
Stitchly's great.
Stitchly's great. Stitch Fiddle is great for designing basic patterns in that aspect,
and for turning pictures into graphs.
Yeah,
I think there's pocket knitting is another one I heard about.
I'm also a big fan. So I'm an Apple girly. I have an iPad and an iPencil that I love, and I regularly will open, like if it's a pattern that's like slightly more complex that I need to do tracking for, I'll open it in the it's like the inbuilt Apple drawing app, and I'll just like track it. You know, cross out the lines on my chart, maybe make notes on things, annotate it there. I do love doing that on paper patterns as well, but it is nice to have a 16-page cable knit sweater pattern on my iPad, and then I don't have to be like, which page am I on? So it is nice to use those digital apps and platforms in a way that really helps organize you.
I'm a big fan of the Tin Can Knits app.
Oh my god, yes.
Which if you haven't downloaded, I highly recommend.
Do it.
So like Ali said, they have made these like course even series of patterns that are easy to knit for first timers. And all of their free patterns are on the app. More are coming every month. And what is great about the Tin Can Knits app is that it breaks down the written patterns into screens that are step by step. And what I like the most is you get to pick what size you're making, and the app will only show you the step you're on with the stitch count that refers to the pattern that you made. For me, as a person that has ADHD, this is an accessibility aid. I love not being distracted by anything else.
Yep.
I don't lose my place every time I go back to the paper, because it's only one screen with only the section that I'm on. And when I'm done with it, I click next and it takes me to the next section. So it's a really good way to focus in on what you're doing. And the app will really help you step by step.
Yeah.
This is really great if you don't plan to modify any of the patterns.
Correct.
Yes.
If you are planning on modifying the patterns, the app is not yet in the place where it lets you do that inside the pattern. But I'm sure it'll get there. I have no doubt it'll get there.
So yeah, in that situation, I'm still with the
pen and paper,
because I actually will, before I even start the pattern, highlight all the sections that are my size, because I'm the same as you. If I don't highlight,
I lose my place.
I will lose my place. There's the problem is obviously there's sections that if it's only for this size specific and it's not specific to me, I may actually do it without realizing. So I have to cross it off. We're like, don't do this part.
Yep.
But yeah, so these are the, I guess we went to six different types of resources that are available to crafters everywhere. And I want to end with a question. I want to ask you if you could create the perfect resource in your head. Well, not in your head, in real life. What would it be? So I'm going to start. I think my perfect resource would be kind of like a hybrid between YouTube tutorials. So a YouTube, like there would be a part where it's kind of like a YouTube tutorial. And the community that Ravelry brings, where you have patterns, you have people, you have projects, you have that whole community vibe. But then you'd still have like the Discord chat part of this, where you can actually interact with people live, right? And not just like sending messages or sending.
So like if you're working on a pattern, you can go to the pattern page and then comment
and
on
just like
chat with other people
like,
that are making it.
So it's a bit of a weird Frankenstein version, and then
no, that makes sense, because there are like reading and book apps like Fable and Storygraph where you can do exactly that. Where you can do a buddy read with someone, and then you can leave notes based off of the page or chapter you're on, and when your buddy gets to that chapter, they'll see the notes you left. So it'd be really cool if there was a crafting version of that kind of platform.
I will shout out here Squidney Knits, Sydney Cravenagh. Sydney has a Patreon, and when you join the Patreon at any stage, at any level, you get access to the Squidney Knits Discord. And because every month she releases a new pattern, every month there's a new Discord channel about that pattern. So everyone who's in the Patreon is casting on together, and we're telling each other how it's going, and you can see the progress pictures and ask questions, and the designer is there. Sometimes she like goes in and answers the struggle questions, etc. It's a beautiful community based on a pattern, based on a Patreon blog.
Love that. That's so good.
Yeah. What's your ideal resource?
I don't know. I feel like this like a knit along-esque kind of platform.
I feel like that's what it
reading.
is.
I feel like that's where I'd want to be, because right now I do enjoy that aspect of make-alongs where I'm in a Discord or Ravelry forum, or even like meeting up with my friends at knit night, and I'm like,
sharing.
You know, how did you get like? So for example, not earlier this year, late last year. I'm still behind on this whip. I started the Kip sweater by the Crabea, Rebecca Clow, and another friend at Knit Night also started the same sweater. And so we were doing the back panel, we were starting the front, and she was having an issue, and I wasn't quite there yet, but we sat down at Knit Night and we're like, we think it might be this. We tried to troubleshoot it together, and then later on she figured it out, and I was still not quite there. I hadn't caught up to her yet, but when she came and saw me at the next Knit Night, she's like, this is how you do this step. This is what we were struggling with. I figured it out. It goes this way. And I made notes on my paper pattern. And I was like, amazing. And then I started knitting a different pattern, and another person was like, oh, I'd like to knit that pattern. So when I finished it, I was like, here are all my notes, the things that I struggled with.
Yeah.
Now you can, and then they had a breeze knitting that pattern. So yeah, that buddy read kind of thing, I would love to have that integrated into wherever.
Essentially a Ravelry that has a Discord channel attached to it, and a YouTube kind of like online demonstration section. And maybe a tracker app snapped on it.
Hashtag TM, if you build this, please give us at least a shout out.
I think for me, my ideal resource right now, because I am experienced in knitting and crocheting, my ideal resource would be a curriculum builder. So let's say that I had everything at my disposal. I would like to be able to find a learning journey or a learning path towards a certain goal, so that at the beginning of the year, I could choose, this year I wanted to focus in on color work, for example. So the resource, the app or website or whatever would help me build a syllabus of things to follow or reference or make that would take me to becoming an expert in color work by the end of the year, right? Nice. So it would be like, in January, it's going to be mosaic. In February, it's going to be fair isle. In March, it's going to be this and that.
And you can
do
that
with
steeking.
And then you're gonna...
But is not so there's a member of our knitting group who's becoming a master knitter.
Yeah.
Put on, I'm not sure which guild it is that's putting it on.
I think it's the American Knitters Guild.
Okay, but would that not meet your needs of, like, it's a criteria where you have to, like, achieve mastery of this skill before you move on to the next one?
It is, but the curriculum is already set for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And it's meant on really mastering the basics, which I don't really want to do.
Got it.
It also includes the accountability part, which is you have to mail in your assignments, get feedback, do them again, correct stuff, and mail it in again, and you get graded. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay.
Honestly, I've thought about it. I might end up doing it one day, because I do want to be able to sign my emails with Master Knitter. And
Can you imagine?
And Anaí Reyes, MK, Master Knitter.
Love that.
But what I really am thinking about is a way that I can choose my own content and make my own curriculum and have that resource just like condensed for me in a centralized place, so that I can go at my own pace.
And then as an expert, you could also maybe have it all the way for
code, contact me.
Yeah.
Doesn't the School of Sweet Georgia do something similar to
Do
that?
they?
I don't know. I've never really explored their classes. So Sweet Georgia is a fiber company based in Vancouver, but they also have a textile fiber like teaching studio as part of their larger umbrella, the School of Sweet Georgia. And I think there is like self-paced online courses that you can take in weaving and spinning and knitting.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they had one where, like you said, you can literally input pretty much anything, because I would use it for like eventually saying, hey, designing my first sweater, or designing my first project altogether, or like things where it's not just techniques, but
And when I say a curriculum, I mean like there's things to read, things to watch, things to make, and assignments and assessments, right? Like a curriculum.
An actual,
But you make it yourself.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Well, I think we did the tour. That's all the resources we have for you. So my question to you is, are you more of an ingredient person or are you more of a recipe person? Let us know in the comments. Also, let us know if there's a resource that we didn't think about, one that you really enjoy or something that you think we missed. And that's about it. We hope you found one resource at least useful to you, and that you're going to explore all of those. I will be putting down all of them below, all the links, so that you can actually like go through the many resources we've talked about. And like we mentioned, please look at your local libraries and online. Just go for free stuff first, and then move your way up.
Your local crafting guilds as well will have classes. Your local shops will have classes.
We've said this before, but we'll say it again. Centers. Makers are generous.
Yes.
We will teach you, we will give you our knowledge for free.
Yeah. Pretty much.
We want more.
More
makers in the world.
More of us. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been Purl Perspective, and this has been Pearls of Wisdom. I'm Kahin.
I'm Allie.
And I'm Anaí.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.